This video doesn't need much of an intro. I just want to give my thoughts and opinions on each of the 160 weapons in Team Fortress 2. Before we begin, I must stress this is my opinion. I will list some fan favorites and praise some weapons that everyone hates. You already know one of them. I'm also not taking this too seriously, so don't be upset if I toss out a good speech for your favorite for a stupid meme. With that out of the way, let's hop right into it. Scattergun. Can't go wrong with the scattergun, right? Well, I can. I don't use this weapon. It's not because I don't like it, it's just because I can't aim with the thing. I don't know why. I use the other primaries just fine and I'm a good shot with a shotgun. Whatever it is, I don't use the scattergun for that reason. Shortstop. Scout, but you don't need to get close to people. One of my favorite loadouts is one that uses this with a guillotine and a rap assassin for true pestering at long range. Anyways, the shortstop itself is a really fun weapon. Maintaining some space can save you in a lot of situations, since you completely outspace pyros. And soldiers have to deal with damage fall off to hit you. However, you are at ideal range for heavies. I really like any weapon that completely changes the way you play a class. This is one of my favorites. I really wish they removed the stupid shove though. Babyface's Blaster. One of the best feelings in the game is getting a full boost with the babyfaces. Running around at hypersonic speeds, carefully weaving in and out of enemies, laying a couple of great kills on foes before they know what hit them. It's good stuff. On the flip side, one of the worst feelings in the game is getting shot by a cross-map pistol shot and losing all of that boost. If you're surrounded by enemies when that happens, you're as good as dead. Backscatter. Of all the scatter options, why would you choose a backscatter? The back hitbox makes zero sense, and DQ's accuracy makes it a bad option at any range other than point blank. If you want to sneak up and take out someone fast, the Force Nature does it better, and every other scenario, the scattergun is just more reliable. Force of Nature. Easily my favorite primary. The ability to casually waltz up behind an enemy and two-shot them is just so fun. And knockback can lead to some hilariously cheeky kills, like knocking foes off a cliff or into an oncoming train. You can even use it to shove enemies away from a control point. The added half jump this thing has can allow you to places you wouldn't dream of with stock. Overall, a fun side grade. I'm glad it has an Australian variant. Soda Popper. The weapon itself is fine, pretty good even. Hype is fun, the fast reload is great. However, I have some bones to pick with the Soda Popper. Firstly, what is this kill icon? Why is it so bulky? Would have killed them to add some extra lines to make it look smoother. Here, I can fix it. That probably looks awful, but it should get my point across. Secondly, why is this thing the weapon they chose to be paintable? Everything looks awful on it. It would have been so much better to paint the Force Nature instead, or any of the other primaries for that matter. And finally, why is there no bonk version? It looks so out of place with my cosmetics. Also, I want to change everything to the critical version. Good weapon, needs balancing in everything except stats. Pistol. Talk about a respectable choice. The pistol is an incredible all-around option. Giving Scout a long-range weapon lets him do so much more. It can be used to weaken a foe before a match, finish him off after a match, deal with pyros, or, if you're like me, you just use it to camp out a sentry. So many choices in just a simple weapon, but there is one thing I hate about it. Everyone gives the revolver and shotgun beef for suffering from random bullet spread, but this thing takes it hard. Good luck trying to lay more than 3 hits on a target from afar. Even with RBS, the pistol is a great and highly respectable pick for any scout or engineer. Pretty Boys Pocket Pistol. Especially love stock, the Pretty Boys just surpass it in nearly every way. Health on hit is so good, and the extra firing speed makes it easier to finish someone off. As for the downside, having less clip can be kind of annoying, sure, but on every reload RBS is reset, so it can come in handy occasionally. Don't have much more to say on this one, I just love it. Winger. How can you surpass the Pretty Boys in power? It's simple, you can't. The Winger is such a weird weapon. First, I said the reduced clip size seemed kinda useful for the Pretty Boys for reducing bullet spread, but this is taking it too far. What can you do with 5 shots? You can finish foes off at a close range with the increased damage? I'm pretty sure there's already a weapon for that. As for the jump height, the Atomizer does it better. Scout's melees are mostly utilities, so it's much easier to give up that slot for a jump boost. Scout just has so many better options for a secondary. The Winger's just kinda useless. The Guillotine. Amongst all of Scout's secondaries, this is a very strange one. There is nothing like the Guillotine in the game, which certainly makes it feel unique. I absolutely love this weapon. It's the perfect thing to throw at a foe right before starting a fight, as it means they're already going to be missing a good chunk of their health, and bleed damage is going to keep them on their toes the whole fight. You also throw this at a retreating enemy to finish them off, or to fight a pyro by outranging him. Hey, come to think of it, the Guillotine seems to do what the pistol does in one shot. It's just hard to land, it doesn't suffer from random spread. The main thing about this weapon that really sells for me is the recharge time. 5 seconds for a scout to materialize a knife is a really short time, so you can just lob it at an enemy, flank behind them, and have it ready right as the bleeding wears off. You should definitely try the Guillotine, it just takes a bit of practice to constantly aim. Bonk. Easily the best in-universe company there is. case you someone couldn't tell, I'm a big fan of the bonk brand. As for the weapon, it's a good way to get in or out of any situation. Granting full invulnerability is no joke. However, I'm kind of neutral on bonk. While I love getting out of tough spots for free, it feels like I never use it more than once in life. And there are a few things more dissatisfying than getting killed right as you're drinking your bonk. But it feels great to duck behind a corner, drink your soda, and gain invincibility just as a horde of foes swarm you. So while it can be situational, it's great what it sets it to do. It also has the best festive variant in the game. Criticola, bonk's other inferior soda. If Scout wasn't enough of a glass cannon for your taste, how about killing things in one hit, but dying in one hit? In case you can't tell, I don't really like this weapon. It seems that as soon as I drink this, I lose my ability to aim, while the other team senses my location at all times. It's probably just because I'm bad at Scout, but I don't care. This is my video with my trash opinions. It doesn't even have a festive skin. Mad Milk. Rounding out Scout secondaries is probably his best one. The Nut Jar. Health back on hit is incredible, especially when you're not limited to your pistol. It's also superior to the Drawdy for a couple reasons. Namely that Scout will get to the front lines and thus his team get more use from it, as opposed to the greedy sniper who hawks it for himself to fight spies with. It can be hard to trade a pistol or escape option for the Milk, but as long as you keep your Scout gun loaded, it should be worth it in the end. Bat. No one uses the Bat. The other options are so much better than Scout's stock, and if you want to use stock, just use the Fish, or its superior and underrated cousin, the Arm. Sandman. I hate this weapon. It has the most crippling downside of any Scout melee, and a ridiculously bad upside. The ball mechanic is an interesting one, but A, aiming the thing requires a lot of practice with this thing. B, the ball does basically nothing unless you get what's basically a cross-map snipe. C, if you get hit by anything less than that, you can just walk off its effects by strafing. And D, it travels at a different arc than the Rap Assassin, which makes it more jarring to switch between the two. 50 less health is a huge downside, and has no justification being on a garbage weapon like this. Candy Cane. Oh joy, my second least favorite bat. Don't get me wrong, I love the upside of this weapon. Getting health back from every kill is no joke. What is a joke is the downside of this weapon. Getting one shot by pipes and rockets is very annoying, and won't be able to use the health back if you're dead. But you know who can? Your opponents! The Candy Cane really needs some rework. Boston Basher. Scout's best melee. Seriously, if you use this thing correctly, it has no downside. Even if you do use it incorrectly, you can build Uber much faster, so it really does have no downside. However, this weapon suffers from a fate worse than stats. Melee hit reg. Sometimes you'll hit someone and before you know it, you'll be bleeding out. It can be annoying, but if used properly, this weapon is a beast. It also has a great design. Sun on a Stick. I've already talked at length about how I really like this weapon in my video on it, but long story short, I love this weapon. The design, the crits, and the fire resistance all combined to make a weapon that has a nice place in Scout's arsenal. Fan of War. March for Death is great, but it has one fatal flaw. Foes can turn around. Atomizer. A very well balanced weapon. Getting a triple jump can allow you to make jumps previously impossible, and it can let you escape from some tight spots. I feel that one thing everyone always forgets about with this weapon is the ability to do mini crits while airborne. This rarely comes up, but it makes Scout melee duels with this thing really fun. Plus it pairs really well with Bonk, since you can triple jump while invincible, allowing you even more escape routes, and you can taunt kill while under its effects, leading to some wonderfully cheesy kills. Rap Assassin. Rounding out Scout's weapons is another one of his best. Taking the deep mechanic of the Sandman, combining it with everything about the guillotine, you have this fun tube. Inflicting bleed from long distance is fun, and can keep enemies from escaping. Plus, you get to keep using a secondary weapon while having bleed powers, or if you're like me, you can combine this with the guillotine to make the ultimate annoying loadout. A very good weapon, just don't let anything get up close to you. Rocket Launcher, the weapon that can do it all. Personally, I think the Rocket Launcher is the single best weapon in the game. It is amazing at taking out all classes, it takes down sentries, lets you gain huge amounts of mobility, and most importantly, it's the most customizable weapon in the game. You've got the original design, the festive and festivized version, even though they look identical, an Australium, a festive Australium, every bot killer type, and a whole bunch of war paints, not to mention all the different qualities the weapon has. I feel that any dedicated TF2 player should have their own custom rocket launcher, and I'm no exception. Direct Hit. I'm not too big a fan of the Direct Hit. Sure, it's the anti-sentry weapon, and it completely annihilates scouts, but it just doesn't really do it for me. It's not because I can't aim it. Okay, that may be part of it, but the missing splash damage just makes me prefer stock. There's something so satisfying about wiping out a group of enemies with one lucky crocket that just can't be replicated with the Direct Hit. With that said, it is really fun to use, and I noticed a trend that I actually really like all of Soldier's primaries. even though I do like this one a bit less. Black Box. The Black Box is a great survival tool, granting health on hit. It's a really fun weapon to use, as it can make you feel like you're invincible, especially when you survive a fight with the healing you got from the weapon. However, this is another rocket launcher I'm not too big a fan of, because of the downside. One less rocket is a lot, since you're losing out on 25% of your primary damage. The upside is worth it, but it can be really annoying to switch to this weapon and realize you're missing your rocket when you most need it. Fun fact, the first new weapon I saw was a black box called the Blacker Box, and for a while I thought that was a different weapon because I didn't know name tags existed. The Black Box also has an Australian version, and I stay up at night every day thinking of why they chose to do that. Rocket Jumper. This is a really fun weapon. It's one of, if not the best option for mobility in the whole game. Free rocket jumps are great. It can allow you to traverse maps in a matter of seconds with no penalty, except maybe some fall damage. I love this weapon, but never use it, and I don't think it's hard to see why. Sure, it's fun on Trollger, but in any actual game it's pretty useless. Fun fact, it was actually the item I purchased to activate my premium TF2 account. Not sure why I have so many stories of my early days with soldier primaries, but they're always fun. Liberty Launcher. Another weapon people say is bad, and this one I have to agree with them. The Sonic Stick gets away with 25% less damage because it is both a melee weapon and has guaranteed crits. The Liberty Launcher has neither of those, and as such is not a very good weapon. Just because it's not good doesn't mean it's not fun, and oh boy do I have fun with this bazooka. One added rocket can do a lot for you, as you can use it in a fight as an unexpected last resort, or you can pull off some sick rocket jump combos with it, or some combination of the both. The added projectile speed is a great way to throw off pyros, as it's faster than stock but slower than the direct hit. Finally, the mini gunboat stat encourages you to rocket jump more, which makes it pair really well with the Market Gardener. Overall, not very good, but loads of fun. Cow Mangler 5000, the Echo Fighter of the rocket launcher, while being more balanced. Infinite ammo can be useful, but ammo typically doesn't become a problem. The charge shot is incredible to land, even if it is really worth the risk of standing still and using your whole clip. The charge shot does make up for the crippling downside the weapon has only 20% damage to buildings. This takes away one of the best uses of the rocket launcher, but replaces it with a more teamwork encouraging disabler. But the stat that makes it balanced is this little thing right here. No random crits. No crockets, no angry people in the chat. A perfectly balanced but less customizable rocket launcher. Also, the strangers are way cheaper. Beggar's Bazooka. I love the Beggars. The triple rocket shot can lead to so many things otherwise impossible. You can sneak up behind heavy and immediately wipe him out. You can take out a sentry before the engineer even knows what's happening, assuming you have good RNG of course. And best of all, Pyros never know what to do against this thing. The Beggars might actually be out the rocket jumper in his mobility power. An overloaded or double rocket jump is truly a force to be reckoned with. However, this thing does depend on luck. With random rocket deviation, sometimes you can just whiff a shot that would have been easy with any other RPG. Also, if you get caught unloaded, you may as well just use your kill bind. But these stupid downsides just further emphasize the weirdness of the weapon, which is why it's one of my favorite rocket launchers. Airstrike. The Airstrike is one of my favorite weapons in the game, for a couple reasons. It seems to combine a bunch of elements I really like from previous rocket launchers. First and foremost, 8 rockets is absolutely absurd. If you get a full clip of this thing, you're gonna be mighty hard to kill. And you know that feeling of pulling out a bonus rocket with a Liberty Launcher? I mentioned that, but you have an additional 3 extra. Next, if you rocket jump, you can fire these 8 rockets at about the same speed as the Beggars, but with pinpoint accuracy, allowing you to take out anything with ease. Finally, this weapon is hands down the best looking painted weapon in the game, and everyone should get a painted Airstrike, similar to the stock launcher. Great weapon, get a painted one. Shotgun. Shoot gun at people, they die. A shotgun is a clean and simple weapon that's always a great pick on any class, providing a medium to short range option for when you run out of ammo in your primary weapon. The shotgun is an ideal combo tool, or finisher, or you could just use it as your main weapon. There's so much variety with how you play with the shotgun, it is never a bad option on any class. Panic Attack. Do you hate RBS? I know I do. If so, try out the Panic Attack. It's like the shotgun, but better. No random bullet spread, an insane switch to speed, and more damage up close. It's all the best parts of the shotgun put into another weapon. In all honesty, I do prefer the Panic Attack to the shotgun. The switch makes it a perfect combo tool for classes like Pyro, and because of the lack of random bullet spread, it's my primary of choice on Engineer. I was never around to see the bullets in these design of the weapon, but I really do like its current incarnation. Reserve Shooter. Rounding out the multi-class shotgun trio is my least favorite of the bunch. The Reserve Shooter is actually pretty good on Soldier. Just shoot it at the ground and finish off an enemy before they land. However, it is very situational on Pyro. You can finish off an enemy launching the air with a reflected rocket. Wowie! Why not just use a different shotgun? Most of the kills I get with this thing are in situations where the shotgun would do me better, or on unsuspecting soldiers. I like the concept of this weapon, and it's probably really good if I learn how to use it well, but I don't want to. I favor having more shots. Gunboats. My soldier secondary of choice. Such an incredibly simple weapon with a mere 1 stat, but this 1 stat is incredible. 60% less self-damage for rockets is just as much as it sounds. Rocket jumps will start inflicting damage to the teens with these, making it an ideal choice for roamers, such as myself. It is the perfect secondary for RPGs like the Airstrike, Liberty Launcher, and maybe the Beggars if you're going for super jumps. Man treads. The man treads are really weird. They have a huge amount of upsides, and are regarded as the Trolldier secondary, but actually have some really useful attributes. The stat that everyone knows them for is easily the worst. Falling on someone for damage is the definition of situational, and oftentimes not kill anyone. And if you do kill with it, there's a good chance you'll be next to an enemy who can kill you in a couple of shots. Nah, the main appeal of the weapon is the reduced pushback force. This lets you have much more control when dealing with sentries, heavies, other explosive classes, and especially Pyro. This actually defeats one of the biggest weaknesses of, believe it or not, Uber charge. As a Pyro main, one of my favorite things to do is air blasting away one part of an Uber. And while the man-turrets won't protect your medic from that, they will sure protect you. The one additional stat has much more control while blast jumping. This is useful, but makes it really jarring to switch to and from. I'm sure it's just because I don't use them much, but still. Overall, the main treads aren't the meme secondary everyone makes them out to be, but there are still better options on Soldier. Buff Banner. Now we get into the cream of the crop of Soldier secondaries, the Banners. The ideal options for a team-based Soldier. Starting with my least favorite, the Buff Banner. Now, the Buff Banner isn't bad. It's a great offensive tool that allows you to swiftly turn the tides of battle. However, it just feels weak compared to the other two banners. The main reasons that it doesn't have a passive buff like the other two, already making it feel weaker. The effect also requires 600 damage like the battalions, while not quite being as good. Mini crits just aren't as good as damage resistance, especially since there are loads of ways to get mini crits, while DR is very rare to come by. Again, not a bad weapon. It just needs more reason for people to use it. Conjurer. Now this is a good weapon. While the buff banner has no passive benefit, the passive benefit is the reason I use the conch. Passive health regen is just as good as it sounds. It's like using the black box while still having a solid primary option, or you could use both of them like a coward. The buff this weapon has is also really good. First, actually stealing the effect of the black box, but also granting a full speed boost, great at keeping your team alive. The best part is, it only takes 400 damage to fill up. A great balance to the fact that this is the weakest of the effects. Battalion's Backup. Far and away the best of the banner trio. For stars, the passive buff is excellent. An additional 20 health is never a bad thing to have, and can oftentimes save your life. But that's not the best part of the weapon. Once you deal 600 damage into your horn, all hell breaks loose. The battalions grants your team a staggering 100% resistance to crits and mini crits, allowing you to shut down buff banner pushes, Girardi pushes, and even the crits Krieg. On top of that, it grants 50% resistance to sentries, completely screwing over engineers, and finally allowing you to cap the intel on 2 fort. And on top of that, it grants a 30% resistance to everything else. Holy cow, this banner just blows every other secondary out of the water. The average survivability for just 600 damage is insane. This thing can allow you to completely turn the tides of battle, even more so than some Ubers. On top of that, this thing has a sleek ass design. The radio with the map taped is a really great look, and the rusted looking trap looks slick as well. Easily Soldier's best secondary, beating out even the gunboats. The battalions is a likely contender for the best item in the whole game. Sadly, that brings us to the end of good Soldier secondaries. Base Jumper. Can you say sitting duck? The base jumper lets you slowly fall through the air at a very slow pace, allowing you to reload or fire off more shots before you finish slowly falling at a very slow pace. I honestly don't know why you would ever use this weapon. Sure, it pairs well with the airstrike, but the gunboats do too, and they do it better, allowing you to bound through the air and assault any unsuspecting foes, without the ability for them to glance up and see you aggressively drifting down. And if you're using it for more air control, just use the man treads. They have insane air control and some more fun things. Finally, you could be using it to lane cheeky market gardens. Sure, I can see the effect of this. Drifting slowly onto an unsuspecting sniper can be pretty funny, but it's not as rewarding as learning how to actually market garden. Not a good weapon. I never use this and don't understand why anyone else would. Righteous Bison. Unlike the previous weapon, I can actually understand why someone would use the Bison. Soldier doesn't have a long range secondary, as all of his attacking ones are either shotguns or some weird boots. Giving him a pistol type weapon isn't a bad idea. However, it's an execution where the Bison falls apart. This thing is slower than my old computer, which is really saying something. Hitting anything with this feels like pure luck. Firing it at someone at any range other than point blank gives them about a year to react and move out of the way. At that point blank, you'd just be better off using a shotgun. The only time this weapon really shines is when someone's running away. you can sometimes hit them multiple times with the same projectile, which is the single cheesiest way to kill someone in the game. Aside from that, it's about as good as you think a weapon that just doesn't work on some maps would. Shovel. Another stock melee no one uses. Unlike the bat, the shovel doesn't have any exclusive reskins, so there is some reason to use it. But giving up the utility of some other melees for this thing can be a tough decision, especially on a slow class like Soldier. Equalizer. Shovel, but it's sometimes better. The Equalizer is an odd weapon, and it doesn't really feel like there's any solid reason to use it. Even stock does a consistent amount of damage, making it more reliable. The way damage scales on this thing is really funky, so you basically need to bust out a calculator to find out how much it'll do per swing. The only people who you'll see using this are guys with strange ones with names referencing Minecraft. And sure, you can build uber fast with it, but that trait is also shared with his twin brother, Escape Plan. Now this here is the Equalizer, but good. Granting speed when you get low on health is so much more useful. It makes the Escape Plan a great, well, you know. Inflicting Mark of Death after pulling it out is a great way to balance it, but it means they're also gonna die much easier. It seems whenever I pull it out, all Alzheimer's know exactly where I am and are ready to no-scope body shot me. I often use this weapon, as more speed is no joke, but I personally prefer the next weapon, as also it lets me help my team get speed. Disciplinary Action. The ultimate team-based melee. Granting both you and your teammates speed boosts with very little downsides is amazing. Getting heavy to the front lines faster can easily help you win a fight for the point. You're really gonna be using your melee on Soldier, so the decreased damage isn't too big of a deal. Finally, I couldn't mention the whip without talking about its astronomical hitbox. I don't know whose idea it was to make a melee be able to hit behind you, but I'm very thankful for that. You can also paint this thing for some reason. Pain Train. Boy did I forget this existed. The Pain Train increases cap rate, which can be pretty useful, but makes you take more damage from bullets, which is really annoying, so I don't use it. Seems like it could be good on demo though. Sorry if I don't have much to say on most melees, they're just very simple weapons. Mark Gardner. What is it to say about the funny memes that hasn't been said before? This thing is the weapon of the Trolldier, but it's also a solid offensive tool as a roamer, allowing you to one-shot 7 of the classes. This thing is devilishly hard to crit with. To get good with it, you'll need to spend a couple hours bounding around to your walkway, but those hours will not be for naught. There are few things more embarrassing in TF2 than getting Mark Garned, and few things as satisfying as being the one to deliver the blow. Flamethrower. As our Pyro main, the Flamethrower is my Excalibur. It's a great all-around option, being both powerful on its own and comboing nicely with Pyro's secondaries. Having 10 air blasts also makes it the best option for helping your team, and can save your bacon in a lot of situations. I don't know how people played Pyro in 2007 without air blast. Reflecting rockets and shoving enemies off cliffs or away from their uber patience is really what makes this weapon. This is basically the air blast Flamethrower, as all the other ones have some penalty for it. Plus, it's actually even more customizable than Rocket Launcher, having the same festive, painted, and bot killer variants, with 2 reskins instead of 1. I was actually lucky enough to get a bot killer Flamethrower for my first ever tour, which was a very nice surprise. Sadly, I can't really recommend going out of your way to get a custom Flamethrower. As it is the jack of all trades, it is sadly the master of none, except air blast. Thus Renegade overshadowed by the next weapon, Degreaser. Pyro is a combo class. The Flamethrower doesn't do enough damage on its own, without some bonus feature we'll get to later. That's where the Degreaser comes in. The Degreaser trades afterburn damage for weapon switch speed, which is a choice I'll make in a heartbeat. This makes it easier to ignite someone, then switch to some finishing weapon like a flare gun or a melee before they know what hit him. The reduced afterburn helps this a lot. Any good Pyro knows not to rely on afterburn to finish someone. This encourages it with the reduced damage. It forces you to use your secondary as your main source of damage. The Degreaser encourages good Pyro habits and is my weapon of choice. Backburner. In my opinion, the least fun Flamethrower. The Backburner appears to try to reach a balance between stock and the flog, but fails. First, air blast on this thing is so expensive. Assuming you don't press M1 once, you're only gonna get 4 toots out of it. Not the most helpful. The Backburner, true to its name, also crits from the back. This brings in its own problems. First, what the game considers to be the back makes absolutely no sense. Sometimes you'll be right behind an enemy only for it to not crit, other times you're basically using the flog with permacrits. It's incredibly inconsistent and encourages WM1 for a chance of crits. Not a fan. Phlogiston. Well, considering what I said about the Backburner, I must have some negative feelings towards the flog, right? Well, no. I love the flog actually. First and foremost, this thing looks dope. Anyways, the flog is considered to be the WM1 weapon. You just run in, get some crits, and wreak havoc. I must disagree with that. The Backburner is actually more suited for that. The flog actually encourages a secondary almost as much as the Degreaser, specifically a flare gun of some sort. The flog can't do anything outside of its given range, and is unable to defend you from soldiers and demos. It encourages you to use a secondary to get damage outside its range. I'd personally recommend the Detonator or the Scorch Shot, or if you want to extinguish teammates, the Man Melter. You can use any of those to get fire damage outside your range, as a method for finishing them off. Then once you use those to get enough damage out, you can use the fruits of your labor. The adrenaline rush you get after taunting and seeing those glorious team-colored sparks at the end of your flamethrower, knowing you're about to get a metric ton of kills, is unmatched. It may not be the best flamethrower, or even my favorite, but I still love the Flog. I will defend it to the end of my days. Dragon's Fury. I have incredibly mixed feelings on the Dragon's Fury. On one hand, it completely changes the way you play Pyro, making him a high burst damage class, and giving him more range and whatnot. On the other hand, this thing is unbearably slow to use. Once you hit someone with it, it'll reload faster, so you can get a good rhythm going, until you either miss someone or air blast, and then you're back to slowness. This thing really penalizes you for air blasting, which I feel is a tad unnecessary, as this thing already takes a lot of skill to consistently hit. If you can learn the trajectory and speed of Dragon's Fury, you can do some serious damage, but I personally can't and don't really want to. I'll stick with the other flamethrowers, but still pull it out occasionally, like when I want to shoot straight through spawn doors. Flare Gun. The cream de la coupe. The magnum opus. This is what a perfect secondary, dare I say a perfect weapon, looks like. The flare gun provides power with a long-range weapon that is absolutely perfectly designed. It will do 30 damage, but it will deal triple that on a burning foe, thus making an incredible finisher on any enemy who's trying to escape your fire, but didn't get away unscathed. The flare gun is difficult to use, but in the best way possible, doing a solid amount of damage to a single target, unlike almost all the side grades. It is simple to understand how to use it, but you must learn the switch speed, firing speed, arc, and travel speed before you can master the flare gun, and by then you'll be an absolute beast. I'm nowhere near being that good, but I still use the flare gun all the time, and the crit kills with it are oh so satisfying to land. It just really needs an Australian version. Detonator, the flare gun's cousin. The detonator grants a couple of odd upsides at the cost of the high burst damage of the flare gun. First and foremost, you can right click to make the flare explode. This is a cool idea, but it's really weird in execution. I may just be bad, but I can never really tell where or when the flare explodes, or how big the explosion is. I think it's because the explosion is really hard to see, especially from a distance. Most of the time it only feels like luck when I hit someone with it. The detonator also does less damage than like mini crits burning foes, which can make it feel rather weak, especially with the weird explosion. But the main reason most people use it is the ability to jump with it. The timing is a bit weird, but if you can get it down, you can get a solid amount of height with it. Not one of my personal favorites, but I can understand why people use the detonator. High skill floor, but very rewarding, as a flare gun should be. Scorch Shot. The detonator's little brother. The Scorch Shot shares a lot of stats with the detonator, being able to jump, less damage, mini crits, yada yada. But where it shines is what happens after it hits someone. The Scorch Shot will make a small fireball, or something, where it contacts an enemy or the ground, igniting anyone unlucky enough to be near it. It will then linger for a little bit, meaning that enemies can walk right back into the lingering flare after being ignited, leading to my favorite kind of kills, the stupidly cheesy ones. This is a rare occurrence, but it is hilarious when it happens. The Scorch Shot also has knockback to it, and a solid amount of that. It can pair extremely well with the Flog, as a compensation for air blast. And also the AoE damage can fill up very quickly. Sure, you'll be called an absolute no-skill noob when using the Scorch Shot, especially when paired with the Flog. It is a strongly effective strat I'd recommend. Lots of people hate the Scorch Shot, and I can understand why, but it's one of my favorite Pyro secondaries. Not really high skill or reward, but very fun. Man Melter. Flare gun's third cousin, twice removed. It's actually amazing how not fun this thing is to use. First things first, it has a much faster projectile. That's cool and all, but if you're like me and know the speed of the other flare guns, it makes it impossible to aim with. The main melter does 30 damage like the flare gun does, but does not crit on burning players. Instead, it will store crits by sucking in afterburn. This is kinda dumb. It requires you to have a pyro on the other team to do any real damage. And you may be thinking, oh, but Starman, the stun on a stick also requires you to have a pyro on a team to work, like that weapon. And while it is the case, it works with a pyro on either team, and more importantly, it's a melee. Your secondary weapon is much more important than your melee, especially on pyro. The thing also has no reload animation. I don't understand why they chose to use, like, maybe it's just a bug or something? Speaking of bugs, there's one of Valve needs to call an exterminator, because this thing is full of them. The sucky thing is already hard to see, but sometimes it just doesn't even want to show up. Exterminating burning pyros doesn't give you crits, and sometimes just delete all of its crits, and sometimes when you fire with it, this absolutely massive ball of fire envelops your entire screen, making it impossible to see anything. I hate the Man Melter. It may act like a flare gun, but it will never be accepted as a true flare gun. Thermal Thruster. I don't think anyone asked for a jet pepper pyro, and yet, here we are. The Thermal Thruster acts exactly how you think it would. You can fly for a little bit with it. This gives pyro insane mobility. Not quite as much as explosive jumping, but still enough to be a real threat. However, there are some downsides that come with this, obviously. This thing takes a metric year to put away. Unless you launch yourself to the moon, you're gonna be surrounded by enemies while you're unequipping this thing. This encourages you not to jump straight into enemies, but rather around them, so you can get the edge on them. actually pairs really well with the back burner. But awesome mobility does come at the cost of a secondary weapon. Trading reliable damage for insane mobility can be hard, but worth it in a good amount of situations. While not my go-to secondary, I do quite like the Thermal Thruster, and it certainly has its place in changing how Pyro is played. Gasp. This thing doesn't deserve to be discussed. Fire Axe. Why would he use this thing? That's not even an exaggeration. Why would he use the Fire Axe when there was an actual direct upgrade to it? Third Degree. The only direct upgrade in the game, and it's still bloody awful. The Third Degree has the minuscule upside of doing damage to all players connected via meta beam. This is basically the most situational upside in the game. When are you ever gonna find a medic and a patient in a situation where it would be better to whip out your melee than use a flamethrower? I guess the Electro Axe pairs both the Thermal Thruster, letting you flank over to the enemy team and get to the medic, but at that point it would just be easier to use the back burner. Axe Extinguisher. My personal favorite Pyro melee. The Axe Extinguisher will mini crit burning players and provides Pyro with a nice finishing blow, typically dealing around 130 damage with good timing. In other words, it's like a close range flare gun. Nor do I like the thing so much. It's really satisfying to get behind someone, lightly tap M1, and then switch to this thing to deliver the finishing blow. As much as I like the Axe Extinguisher, it really doesn't deserve the Australian role it has. That honor should have gone to the flare gun. Homewrecker. I love to see it and hate to use it. The Homewrecker is the ideal support tool, being able to one-shot Cerberus and do a lot of damage to buildings. However, I really dislike using it. It kind of forces you to sit next to your engines and wait for something to go wrong. Also, they're very vocal about what's going on. Increased damage to buildings is situational. It seems like it'll only be truly useful when you find a lone telly. Pyro has a lot more options, and while I adore any Pyro who uses it, I can never bring myself to. Power Jack. Now this is a good option. The Power Jack is considered to be the meta for Pyro, and it's not hard to see why. Two amazing upsides for a fair downside. Firstly, you can just whip out this thing and noom. You'll get an amazing speed boost, allowing Pyro to get to the point much faster. Secondly, the Power Jack will grant 25 health on kill, making it function kind of like an Axe Extinguisher Jr., encouraging you to land finishing blows with it. All this comes at the cost of damage vulnerability, but only while deployed, making sure you don't have it out when you're not supposed to. Very balanced, and I'm glad I have a custom one. Back Scratcher. Oh boy, another weapon with theoretically no downsides. The Back Scratcher, unlike the Back Burner and the Back Scatter, does not do anything from the back. Instead, it has a solid 25% damage bonus, allowing you to take down enemies much quicker. You also get more health from health packs. I don't know what this has to do with a rig, but I'm sure there's some connection. On the flip side, you'll get much less healing from dispensers and, more importantly, medics. While this may seem like a bad thing, it allows meds to build Uber much faster. Like I said, theoretically no downside. I still don't use it though. As good as this is, I prefer the Axe and the Power Jack, but I do quite like it, even if the name makes absolutely no sense. Neon Annihilator. The Homewrecker, but with slightly more useful features. The Neon Annihilator has an odd role amongst Pyro melees. It can destroy sappers, but not as quickly as the Homewrecker. It also crits on wet players of all things. It has a sleek design and makes a funny noise when you taunt. I don't have any strong feelings on the Neon Annihilator, and I need to save my breath for the next two melees. Hot Hand. Yikes. The Hot Hand tries to replicate the Mimi goodness of the fish, but horribly fails in the process. What made the fish work is that it was just a reskin. It was stupid because the fish was lethal. That's funny. The Slap Hand has its own stats, and they are bad stats. It grants a speed boost on hit. This sounds good, but more often than not, when I land a hit on someone after more than 24 misses, the speed boost will just throw off my game, making me miss more. It also has 20% less damage, or at least that's what it says. The Hot Hand does 20% less damage, but across 2 slaps for some reason. This means that to get the full damage penalty, you'll need to land 2 melee hits in a game with infamously scuffed melee rig. This means that each hit will do a measly 28 damage, which is awful with that upside. If this weapon is trying to replicate the fish, they should change a couple things about it. Firstly, they should make it a reskin of the Fire Axe. A slap that can 2-shot any class would be hilarious. And secondly, make it paintable like the fish. I want to go around killing people with an oven mitt. Sharp-Brimmed Volcano Fragment. Last and least is the Volcano Fragment. Easily my second least favorite weapon for Pyro, and, quite possibly, the second least favorite in the whole game. The Sharp-Brimmed Volcano Fragment lets the Pyromaniac, a flamethrower and flare gun wielding fire-obsessed freak, light people on fire from the shortest distance imaginable. Hooray. I mean, just why would he use this thing? Pyro has so many better options to let him do so much more. But the worst part is, this weapon would just be a typical bad weapon, mostly harmless and all that. But no. It just had to be a rift weapon, so now everyone pairs with the sauna stick, bringing it down to its level. You know what, that's it. That's my least favorite weapon now, even worse than the... I guess not. I can still say the name of the sharpened volcano fragment. Grenade launcher. If I were to use one word to describe the grenade launcher, it would be reliable. Doing a clean and simple 100 damage at any point before it hits the ground makes it feel consistent. If you can learn the arc the pipes travel in, you can become a beast with this thing. You can take out anything from spies to heavies to sentries with ease. And even if you miss a shot, it'll still roll on the ground for a bit before exploding for less damage, which can lead to some pretty funny kills. The grenade launcher also has an incredibly smooth design, and just looking at it rotate while firing is very satisfying. Overall, the grenade launcher is never a bad option for demo, providing a reliable splash damage that's good in any situation imaginable. Iron Bomber. There are a lot of reasons why you want to prefer the Iron Bomber to stock. You could use it because the grenades roll less despite being actual spheres. You could use it for the shorter fuse time, allowing for less reaction time from your opponents. You could use it for the sleek and square design the thing has, and how it looks fabulous in war paints. Or you could be like me and use it because you think it's funny how it sounds like a basketball. Lock and Load. Basically the main melter of Demo's primaries, while not quite being as bad. Like the main melter, the Lock and Load has faster projectile speed, which as previously mentioned, just throws me off. The projectile also disappears when it hits a floor or a wall, which means you can't get any funny kills with it. The main appeal of the weapon is a 20% increase in damage to buildings. This means to be able to two-shot buildings, which is not a bad set at all. In fact, it gives the Lock and Load a good purpose in Demo's arsenal, leaning more towards his strengths. However, the biggest downside defeats this. One less shot per clip is devastating, and unlike the black box, the Lock and Load does not make up for it. Just crunch the numbers. You'd be doing more damage to a building with just 4 regular shots. I can understand why people use the Lock and Load, but I can more so understand why you see people sticking with stock. Loose Cannon. Where do I even start with the Loose Cannon? I think it's statistically Demo's worst primary, because at the end of the time it takes to fire 1 shot, other launchers get fire 2. But I still use this thing all the time. The cannon is so fun to use. It's such a stupid weapon. You have to forget everything you know about Demo primaries to learn the arc of this thing. And the charge meter works the opposite of how you think it would. But if you can learn those, you can start landing the elusive and exclusive double donks. These things are hilarious. Not only do they make the most satisfying sound in the game, they can also one-shot light classes and do a ridiculous amount of knockback, making it the perfect Uber stopper. I probably love this thing too much, but I don't care. Double donks are just too much fun. Booties. Not much to say on these. You get life and speed at the cost of your primary. Good for Demo Knight and Sniper Terrorizer. Sticky Bomb Launcher. One of the best designed weapons in the game. The Sticky is an incredibly versatile weapon that has the threat in the hands of anyone using it. You could use it to spam down choke points and get cheesy kills, for setting up carefully thought out traps to eliminate a group heal or a high value target, or you could use it for an insane amount of mobility by sticky jumping. The Sticky Launcher has a side grade for all of these, but you just can't beat the original. Jack of all trades, master of all. The arm time is perfect, the arc is adjustable, and does a good amount of damage, especially when grouping stickies together, and it even looks good in Warpaint. Some say this is a perfect weapon, and I can definitely see why. Scottish Resistance. The first of the side grade and the weakest of the 3, it's still a great weapon, don't get me wrong, it just feels a tad underwhelming. The Scottish Resistance is a trap-based sticky launcher. It fills its role by allowing you to place 14 stickies and detonate them all individually. I really like this part of the weapon. It can be loads of fun to set up a bunch of traps and catch multiple people separately, or same guy multiple times. However, there is one single crippling downside of the weapon: arm time. It takes forever to arm stickies with this thing, making it nearly impossible to use in a pinch unless you play 3 steps ahead, which can be difficult if you're being attacked by heavy or pyro. I know it's not made for this, but still it makes me not want to use it as often as it should. Quickie Bomb Launcher, the spam based side grade. I really like the Quickie Launcher, it has a lot of great merits to it. Firstly, the ultra fast charge time effectively gives Demo a long range weapon he so desperately needs. I don't even need to say how useful this can be, it's pretty self-explanatory. Also, it has a quicker arm time, which makes it good to use in a snap, basically giving you a second grenade launcher, as long as you mash M2. This comes at the cost of less damage and clip size, which feels incredibly balanced considering the upsides. Will you get called out for using this weapon? Probably. Is it worth it? I'll leave that up to you. Sticky Jumper. Have you ever thought to yourself, gee, Demo is so slow, I wish I could jump across the entire bloody map in one bound? If so, this Sticky Jumper is right up your alley. Just place down 2 stickies and into the stratosphere you go. It deals no damage, but who needs that when you have a grenade launcher? Or you could pair with the boots for the ultimate Sniper Terrorizer, So come on down to the Manco store and buy a sticky jumper for the low cost of 99 cents. Disclaimer, this is overpriced, buy it for 1 cent from anywhere else. Charge and charge. Oh boy, the shield trio. Much like the sticky side grades, each of them specializes in different aspects of Demo Knight. The charge and charge is my personal favorite of the three. It is the defense shield, giving Demo insane resistance to fire and explosives. It may be basic, but I'm a coward, and I'm really bad as Demo Knight, so the resistance helps. Unfortunately, the shields are basically melee weapons, so I won't have too much to say on them. Tide Turner. Have I ever charged someone only to completely miss them? Probably not, but I have. So what do? Keep charging, or do a direct 180 and ram into them from the back. The Tide Turner, no ability shield, allows the second option to become possible. This is a favorite by Demo Knight specialists, as the turn power allows them to do absolutely insane things I could never dream of. I personally don't use it because it doesn't provide many resistances, and, more importantly, the fact that it can only mini crit is really annoying. Not my favorite, but I still whip it out quite often. Splendid Screen. My least favorite of the shields. Sure, it provides resistance like the charge, but being the offensive field, it mostly focuses on packing power into the shield bash. This is cool and all, but I prefer killing foes with swords to shields, especially since they have more range and the Eyelander gives heads on sword kills. The Splendid Screen isn't bad, it's just not my cup of tea. Bottle. It's cool, but the square version's better. It just needs a strange version. Eyelander. Probably my favorite melee weapon in the game. The Eyelander is the ideal choice for Demo Knight, warning you nicely for every kill you get with it. It will start by crippling you, but gradually it will surpass the demo without it. When paired with the boots, you can even outrun scouts. Once you get 4 heads with this thing, you become an unstoppable beast. It's a shame not the other swords quite match the genius design of the Eyelander, so I think it's time for a Demo Knight lightning round. Let's go. Have Zatoichi. It's the Eyelander, but for cowards. I forgot to talk about one over soldier. Persian Persuader. It's the Eyelander, but you can chain charges. Claymore. It's the Eyelander, but really poorly designed. Scotsman Skullcutter. It's the Eyelander, but has random crits. Ulapul Caber. It's the Eye. Oh. We gotta talk about this one. I really like some parts of the Caber. For one thing, the exploding mechanic is actually really useful. It can let you dive bomb onto a group of enemies and knock them out at once. That's where my praise ends. This thing is so poorly designed. It seems like it's trying to fill a couple roles, but doing them all poorly. The huge damage makes it seem like it would be a last-ditch gotcha card. The deploy speed and self-damage say otherwise. It could also be trying to be a big exploding weapon, but if so, it would recharge rather than making you run all the way back to resupply. And sometimes this stupid thing doesn't even explode when you need it to, but also kinda does, and I don't know how this thing works. There is fun to be had with the Caber, and you can do some pretty cool things with it. It just needs a bit of fixing to truly be worth using. Minigun. The anti-everything tool. The minigun does exactly what a minigun should do. Shred everything. You can annihilate anything from scouts to sentries. Some say the Tomislav is better than this, and they might be right, but I personally prefer the minigun. I also want to get a bot killer one so I can call it the Revan Rumble. It has nothing to do with the weapon, but I really don't play heavy much, so I don't have much to say. Tomislav. Objectively, heavy's best primary, and justifiably so. The faster rev time can let you do so much more with heavy, like some kind of B-hop while being ready to fire the first time travel. The accuracy is also really helpful, since the minigun is one of the worst offenders of RBS. Like I said, I prefer stock over this, but I'm happy this has an Australian version. Brass Beast. The Brass Beast is simultaneously really fun and not fun to use. On one hand, the rev time of this thing means you gotta be a sitting duck for a while as you wait for it to prepare itself. And on the subject of sitting ducks, the reduced movement speed means you gotta be a free pick for any sniper. But on the other hand, if you do get this thing revved up in a group of enemies, if you've got a med backing you up, you will absolutely decimate them in mere seconds. There is nothing scarier than a fully revved Brass Beast heavy staring you in the face. A weapon of extreme highs and lows, but I do quite like the Brass Beast, and whip it out occasionally to wreak some havoc. Huolong Heater. I don't think I've used this gun once. The ammo consumption is just too much. We're out for 1 second too many and whoops! Time to go back to the resupply. Sure, it does more damage on burning players, but it's just more damage, not even a mini crit. And the Ring of Fire looks cool but does nothing, which is a perfect summary of the weapon. It looks sick, but there's no real reason to use it. Natasha. Look at all these people playing TF2. Having fun. Don't you hate it? Don't you wish there was some easy way to prevent all of them from having fun? Well, boy, do I have the ultimate person-hating weapon for you. Just hit him once with a Natasha and watch all their momentum just flutter away. You can almost see the smiles getting wiped off their faces through the screen. And it does less damage than stock, meaning you gotta kill everyone in a slow, painful way. Both the characters and the players. And before you know it, you'll be the only one on the server. What are the odds? Family Business. The Family Business is so weird. Of all the shotgun wielders to give a completely niche shotgun to, why heavy? I guess to make up for the fact that he didn't get a reserve shooter. This thing also has incredibly simple stats, which I'm fine with after all the miniguns and demo melees. You have more shots and fire faster at the cost of damage. It does more damage than stock, but only if you land all the shots, which is easier with the faster firing speed. It's a great weapon for those who can aim well with the shotgun and fat scouts. Fun to use, but not worth giving up a lunchbox item for. Speaking of... Sonvich. Well. If it isn't the Sonvich, objectively the single most iconic weapon in the game, with the most famous voice lines in the game to go with it. The one they sold at Comic-Con for a skin. The Medic Saber. The instant free life. What do I think of it? It's pretty cool. All the health is cool, but the recharge time is annoying. I like how heavy can eat straight through wrapping paper and actual steel though. Speaking of eating through metal, am I the only one who thinks there should be an Australian sandwich? It's already one of the most iconic weapons in the game, so you know it'd sell for a lot. If Valve ever adds more Aussies, this should be one of them. Second, banana. It's a Sonvich, but I like it more. Call me selfish for giving out small health packs. I can't live without the half recharge time, quite literally in some cases. While it doesn't quite heal as much as a sandwich, most of the time 200 health will be enough to get you back into the fray. I have nothing more to say on the matter, so take a moment to admire the jiggle bones. Oh yeah. The Locust Bar. 50 extra health can be quite useful in some situations. It can allow you to survive 2 headshots, which can be pretty groovy. However, only getting back 100 health for eating it really breaks it for me. 100 health isn't very much for heavy. More often than not, you'll just be standing around eating your chocolate and thinking, why didn't I just equip a sandwich or a banana? Not only are they better at healing, they're more nutritional. Buffalo Steak Sonvich. A bafflingly designed weapon. Granting heavy speed and main crits versus melee is a fine weapon concept, and well balanced. Why did they add damage vulnerability too? It really confuses me. Also, heavy will get salmonella from eating raw meat and die. Fists. You sure can punch things, I guess. What are you even wanting to say about stock fists? Killing Gloves of Boxing. A very nicely balanced weapon. Melee kills are hard to get in this game, so it's nice to be rewarded for landing solid ones. If paired with the Tomislav, you can switch to it and fire off a few shots while you still have crits, which can take out a couple high priority targets very swiftly. Gloves of Running Urgently. Ability gives heavy a much needed speed boost, and the health tree encourages you to have them out when there's no enemies nearby. It makes the weapon feel balanced. Again, heavy just really hit the nail on the head with the boxing gloves. Holiday Punch. A really stupid but fun melee. It effectively turns heavy into a fat spy, allowing him to critically hit from the back, but rather than killing them, it'll make them laugh uncontrollably. This will go one of 2 routes. If it's in the middle of a battle, they'll die to a rocket or something. But if the 2 of you are alone, you can go for the classic taunt kill. The best part of the weapon is the fact that, for some reason, you make Ubered players laugh. As if you land a good punch on a medic after he pops it, that'll be a good 40 seconds of his time down the drain. Fists of Steel. What if Heavy, the class already designed to tank all sorts of damage, was even tankier? The Fists of Steel answered this question by letting Heavy absorb a lot more bullets and explosives before dropping. This is my melee of choice. It's good to equip when retreating from a battle, when going into a battle, and walking across sniper sight lanes. I love the fact that this thing has 1 upside and 4 downsides, and yet it's still really well balanced. Oh, and also, don't take it out in a melee duel. It won't end well. Eviction Notice. Going from the highest highs to the lowest lows. The Eviction Notice is a bad joke of melee weapon. It acts like a wannabe Gru, but fails considerably. Firstly, it isn't even as fast as the Gru, but it still has the same life drain. But that's not why people use it. People use it for the super fast punches. However, if you take the damage penalty into account, you're just doing less DPS than you would with stock. The only people I've seen wielding the Eviction Notice are stupid weeps, and I can see why. No reasonable person would ever use this when there are so many better options available. Warrior Spirit. Alright, here's how the average experience with the Warrior Spirit goes. You spawn in and they're all like, oh yeah, let's go wreak some havoc. You pull out your tasty slab of raw meat, take a bite, and you're ready to inflict many crits aplenty. But as soon as you walk out of spawn, you immediately drop into a single soldier or something because you take 50% more damage from everything, and they switch off the Warrior Spirit. Frontier Justice. Finally, another class you know well. The Frontier Justice is a wonderfully balanced weapon. It acts exactly like the shotgun, with 2 extreme differences. 3 shots, and crits when your sentry is destroyed based on how many kills it got. If you crunch the numbers, this means it'll do more damage than stock, as long as the sentry got 1 kill. The Frontier Justice is really fun to use. It's familiar, since it works like a shotgun, also rewards you for using your sentry well. If you let your sentry get a lot of kills before it goes down, you can just feel the adrenaline coursing through your veins, as the Frontier Justice glows a gloriously bright red and blue, and you hear the crackling of the crits, knowing you're gonna avenge your poor sentry. Very nice weapon, but I don't think it deserved the honor of being Australium. That probably should have gone to stock, or if they don't multi-class Aussies, the Wrangler. Widowmaker, another gun that functions like stock, except rather than having half the clip, it has an infinite clip. The way the Widowmaker rewards you for landing shots is great. Using your metal as ammo is genius. Again, back on hit is also genius. You actually get it back more than you fired off, so if you're running a bit low, just shoot an enemy a couple times and you'll be good. The Widowmaker can be considered a direct upgrade. If you land all your shots, it is. But as somebody who can't do that, I just think the Widowmaker is a really nice side grade, but not something I'd always have on me. Rescue Ranger, rather than camp next to your sentry to heal it, now it can camp far away from your sentry to heal it. Wowie! Really though, the Rescue Ranger is a solid tool to encourage you not to mindlessly stand next to your sentry. Healing from a distance encourages you to follow good NG habits by putting your buildings far away from each other. You can also just yoink your sentry right out of a tough spot, which is really fun to do but really annoying to fight. I like the Rescue Ranger, but I prefer having a solid damage dealer to a tool that has the added bonus of doing damage. Thompson 6000. Remember everything you said about the Bison all that time ago? Well, the Thompson is like that, but it's your primary weapon. It also lacks the one thing that made the Bison fun, the Pierce. To make up for it, it removes Cloak and Uber on hit, which means that it's both not fun to fight with and against. I really hate this thing, and I have nothing more to say on it. Wrangler. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Time to talk about this stupid thing. The Wrangler is a weapon that really does too much. Not only does it grant you full control of your sentry, it also allows you to make a shoot outside its range, and also doubles the fire speed, and above all else, makes it require 3 times the damage to take down. This thing is easily NG's best secondary, and I try not to use it because I value other people having fun. This stupid thing needs a nerf of some kind, hopefully removing the shield. Then, it'd be a good trade-off to the pistol. Short Circuit. Well, we finally found it. The single least fun weapon in the game to fight against. First things first, the Short Circuit has a primary fire that does nothing. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about this ball of anti-fun. This stupid ball remove any projectile it comes into contact with. This includes the following: all rockets, all pills, all stickies, fire, arrows, rescue ranger beams, flares, Sandman wrap assassin balls, liquid containers, and many more. All these just get deleted by the engineer pressing M2. It can completely shut down the main attack of 3 classes and really hinder 4 other ones. On top of that, the ball lies the brightest white you've ever seen, so you're probably gonna go blind looking at it. I can stand guns that one-shot you, a gun that makes you slow, and even a tool that makes a sentry nearly invincible, but this is where I draw the line. If I see a Short Circuit NG riding a cart, I know I'm not in for a good time. It'll probably be less stressful just to go find a bot-infested game. Fuck this Short Circuit. Wrench. The wrench is one of the best stock melees. It's never a bad option, and every Psyker has a good reason to use a wrench over it. But that does not mean I have anything to say on it. Jag. The best side grade to the wrench, and possibly the best NG melee. The Jag has a lightning fast attack speed, which means you can get a building up in no time. It's also great for upgrading builds for the same reason. It has less damage, which really doesn't matter too much. But what does matter is the decreased repair rate, and the fact that it takes 3 hits to destroy a sapper. These stats together make the Jag great for setting up a base, but underwhelming when it comes to maintaining it. It's also useful for setting up a temporary base, like if you're playing offense on a payload map. A very well balanced side grade, and one I often use. Southern Hospitality. A really boring weapon. You make people bleed, but you take more damage from fire. An unimpactful upside for an unimpactful downside. Eureka Effect. Another one of my favorites. For starters, I love the retro futuristic look of the Eureka Effect. The awfully large coil on the back is really a sight to behold. The Eureka Effect is the teleporter based wrench, making tellies only cost 100 metal to upgrade, allowing you to warp back to your exit or spawn at any time. The reduced telly cost is pretty self-explanatory. You get to max out one of your buildings with 1 supply of metal, and your most important one no less. And the teleportation powers this thing has can make for a great escape, or inscape. With this stat alone, a new subclass of NG was born, the awesome power of the Dingineer, sneaking up behind your opponents, hiding an exit, and bolting out of there, only to teleport back and pick off a few of them. Great wrench overall, another one I frequently find myself using. Gunslinger. Far and away my favorite way to play NG. The Gunslinger completely changes how you play the class, turning him from a defensive support class into an offensive support class. Many sentries are easy to place down and basically give you a second person to fight with. It'll more likely win a 2-on-1 than a 1-on-1. The additional help also really helps, and it encourages you to be more aggressive in your fights, not to rely on a sentry all the time. And then there's the triple hit combo. That's all I have to say on the triple hit combo. The Gunslinger really changes how you play Engineer, and in my opinion, the Battle NG is much better than the regular one. Syringe Gun. the only bad stock weapon. The syringe gun just doesn't do much. You can shoot syringes into people, but the crossbow and the super syringe gun just do it better. Next, Blutsauger, the aforementioned super syringe gun. The Blutsauger trades health regen for health regen, but only when it hits something. If you get into a fight with the Blutsauger, chances are you'll regain health faster than you can take it. I don't use it because the crossbow exists, and I try not to get into many fights as medic, but it's the best of the worst. Overdose, a syringe gun that makes you faster with a catch. It'll A, only give you a 20% speed boost if B, you have full Uber, but it does scale upwards, but it'll also work if C, you have it active. Not a very good combination of stats, but still better than the syringe gun. Crusader's crossbow, without doubt the best medic primary. The crossbow has one clip, reloads when not active, and travels in an arc. So in other words, it functions like a flare gun. No wonder I like it so much. The crossbow is the only medic primary to have any range, do significant damage, and heal teammates. It all culminates in one weapon that's hard to master, but very rewarding. Medigun. Now we get to the mediguns, which I have a lot to say about. The medigun is the best of them, obviously. Nothing beats full invincibility. It also takes the most time to charge up Uber. It occurs you need to play med well to charge it up faster. This thing both heals and builds Uber at a perfect rate, healing your teammates fast, but not so fast that you'll miss out on building Uber quickly. I love using this stock medigun. It's probably my favorite of the bunch. Let's not say it's the only one I like, as I do love most of them. Kritzkrieg. I don't have too much to say about the Kritzkrieg. You build Uber a bit faster, and get full crits when you use it. I rarely ever use this though, because it doesn't offer any protection from anything. You're just as vulnerable to spy when you use Uber as you are when you're building it. Quick Fix, a fun side grade. The Quick Fix, true to its name, has a lightning fast heal rate, which can put your teammates back into the fray in no time. It also has a slightly faster Uber build rate, but due to the fact it never actually reaches max overheal, it will always build at top speed. The Quick Fix also has the wonderful ability to mirror blast jumps and shield charges. This is great if you work with a friend, allowing med to get around the map much faster than normal. But I always forget about this and panic whenever I get launched into the air for a minute, before I realize, oh yeah, that's just a Quick Fix. As for the Uber itself, I'm not a big fan. It'll triple the heal rate, allowing you to heal your teammates at super sonic speeds, but it won't help too much against focused fire. Pretty good medigun overall, probably my second favorite. Vaccinator. I used to use the Vaccinator all the time. I really like the chunked up segments of the Uber charge, requiring you to make some split second decisions to keep your teammates alive. But I thought the Uber completely blocked out the type of damage, rather than blocking out 75% of it. I realized this when I used bullet resist on my patient while fighting a heavy, only for a patient to die, leaving me thinking, well, that's not supposed to happen. After realizing that it only blocks 75% of the damage, it leaves me feeling that the Vaccinator is too much work for a very low reward. Bonesaw. So my script says that I should just make another joke about a stock melee bad, but during the recording of this, I picked up a random sign on the ground and managed to kill 2 people with it as medics, so I just decided to show that clip instead, and I had to like make a longer voice line to compensate for that. Yeah, it's a cool sign, by the way. Uber Saw. There isn't really much point to talk about any saw other than this one. The Uber Saw is no question the best melee for medic. 25% Uber is a huge amount. If you land multiple hits on an enemy, you can save almost half a minute of building Uber. It's a shame it almost never happens though, due to the 99% crit chance the weapon has. Oh yeah, the Uber Saw also has a downside, I guess. 20% less swing speed doesn't matter if you just one-shot everything. I love using the Uber Saw. Sneaking up on someone and getting free Uber is just too good to give up compared to the other melees. Vita Saw. If you're not using the Uber Saw, I'm using its little brother, the Vita Saw. Rather than give Uber on hit, the Vita will keep an organ worth 15% Uber. It will receive that 15% upon respawning, up to 60% Uber. This is a really well designed side grade to the Uber Saw. It just needs a different downside. If the Uber gets a negligible downside, how come the Vita gets the worst possible downside? Less max health. The worst part is I actually prefer the concept of the Vita, and I'd use it as a main melee if not for this. The unjust is inexcusable. Amputator. You can spam taunt at a choke point for 15 minutes with the Amputator. Hooray. Oh, you also get more health regen with it, but only while it's active, so it's kinda stupid. Solemn Vow. Bad. Sniper Rifle. I am awful as sniper. There's only one primary I can actually aim with, and this ain't it. I bet you can already guess what that is. Still, the stock sniper rifle is a really fun weapon I pull out when I want to work on using a traditional rifle. It's really basic to use and hard to master, and it's full of customization, equal to the rocket launcher actually. Landing headshots with it is really satisfying, it has the best firing sound, probably the best pick around, and I really want to learn to get better with it. Bizarre Bargain. Land 2 quickscopes and then it's a direct upgrade. The Bazargan is one of those weapons with theoretically no downsides, since snipers tend to only go for headshots. It's one of the more apparent of them. I probably should use this rifle more, and sometimes I consider doing it. I pull it out, scope in, line up a shot, and go deaf. The Bazargan is so absurdly loud, you're gonna suffer some kind of hearing loss before getting a full set of heads with it. Hitman's Heatmaker. If you're really good with sniper, this weapon has no downside. However, most people aren't that good, and I'm no exception. In fact, I hate using the Heatmaker. This being another rifle I can't aim with, I typically aim body shots, if even that, and there's nothing more devastating than seeing a fully charged body shot that can't even one-shot a light class. As for the focus meter, I don't think I've ever filled it. Even then, it seems to just be the Bazargan with tunnel vision, probably my least favorite rifle, and sniper primary to that extent. Machina. Rounding out the theoretically no downside squad is the Machina, my favorite of the bunch. As has been previously discussed, I really land headshots, so a weapon that rotates for the next best thing, a charge shot, is really useful. A damage bonus is never a bad thing to have, and a pierce kill is cool when the stars align for you. As for the negatives, you fire tracer rounds, making the enemy tell where you are. But since I'm an idiot and typically hover around my team when playing sniper, or hide in the most obvious spots, it's not too big a deal. Secondly, you cannot fire whilst unscoped. This is a bit annoying, but if you train yourself just a quick scope to finish people off, it's not a problem. One of my favorite rifles, and one I often use. Sydney Sleeper. I actually really like the Sleeper. It encourages you to help out your team rather than just go for kills. And since I'm typically a team-based player, I really like this. Killing an enemy with Girardi right before they get to the point practically ensures their death. You can quick scope teammates to extinguish them. I like this change to Sniper. It makes me wish I could aim better to help my team more, rather than just for personal benefit. Speaking of aiming, I guess it's finally time to get to the one weapon I can aim with. Huntsman. I mean, were you expecting anything else? If I can't aim with a rifle, I should be able to aim with a ha! You thought I'd be able to aim well with the Huntsman? As if. Nah, the one weapon I can aim with is the Classic. I don't know what it is about the Classic. Maybe it's just the fact that you can see the whole sideline at once. Maybe it's because the one time I played Team Fortress Classic. But I can aim well with this gun and this gun alone. As such, it's my favorite primary for sniper. And even if I couldn't aim with it, it'd still be my favorite. The design of this thing, both in visuals and audio, is amazing. I could listen to that gold source firing sound all day. Plus, you can wall around with it, or walk at full speed while scoped. Even with a reduced body shot damage, you can still one-shot light classes with a full charge. I love this thing. It's far from the best rifle, but it's the most fun for me, and the only one I can aim with, so I love it. SMG. It's like the pistol, but not quite. Whereas the pistol serves as a mid to long range option for when your foe runs away, the SMG is a mid to close range option for when your opponent gets a bit too close for comfort. It's also really great at finishing off people who survive a rifle shot, like if you quickscope with Pyro. The SMG pairs really well with the Classic, as you can't quickscope at all with that thing, so it's nice having something with a bit of range you can pull out in a pinch. My personal favorite of sniper secondaries. Cleaner's Carbine. It's the SMG, but without what makes the SMG good. The SMG works because it provides reliable damage in mid-range, and does it quickly. The Carbine fails with that, with less clip and a slower firing speed. The Cleaner's Carbine feels more like a weird pistol than SMG, which, as previously stated, goes against what the SMG is all about. Crikey is pretty cool, granting mini crits on all your weapons, but if you're using a secondary flick mini crits, yeah, may as well just be using Girardi. The Carbine has a weird spot amongst sniper secondaries, as there is really no strong incentive to be used. Funny that it was paired instead with my least favorite primary. Girardi, the classic piss jar. Girardi will make whoever's doused with it take mini crits. This is pretty cool and all, but most of the time, sniper is really far from the battle, so the most you're gonna get out of it is dousing a single spy. I much prefer Mad Milk, since Scout is always right up in the opponent's face. Girardi isn't a bad option, but personally, it's not worth giving up my trusty SMG for. Cozy Camper. If you're not using the SMG, I'm using this. The camper will allow you to generate health and make you not flinch when fully charged, which really helps if you're using the Classic like me. It helps you survive fire and bleeding, and since medics rarely go to sniper spots, it can really keep you alive after running with the spy. It's like having your own personal dispenser. I'm a big fan of it. Razorback. Alright, this is awful. Any spy who has more than 10 hours in the game will know not to backstab you, and no overheal is way too penalizing while the other backpacks have no downsides. But you already know that. Everyone says that. What I find hilarious is that there are strange Razorbacks that track your spies fooled. I really want to know if anyone has a Hale's own Razorback. Darwin's Danger Shield. It is hilarious to flare snipe a sniper so many times they pull out the Danger Shield. Kukri. One of the best stock melees. Sniper only has 4 weapons, so this is one of the more frequent ones, and the one I use. I mean, I technically use the Freedom Staff, but whatever. Shahansha. A really boring weapon. It does slightly less damage when above half health, and slightly more when below half health. The only notable thing is that it's paintable. Trialman Shiv. If you get into melee fight with Sniper, you're either going to win or lose. Damage over time is basically useless. I know it does slightly more than stock with bleeding, but that isn't gonna help you if a Demo Knight shows up behind you. Bushwhacker. A really interesting concept for a melee. I know the Phantom of War already has the same mini crits to crit stat. What makes the Bushwhacker interesting is that it doesn't supply its own mini crits. You have to pair with Girardi, or the Carbine, but if you get an enemy soaked in Girardi and you have this equipped, they're as good as dead. The damage vulnerability evens the playing field a bit, but I encourage you not to have it out at all times. If I use Girardi, you'd better be using this thing with it. Revolver. One class left. I'm just gonna get this out of the way now. I am absolutely awful as Spy. He's easily my worst class, it's not even close. As such, I find myself using the Revolver a lot more than I probably should. That's not to say I dislike the thing. In fact, I love the Revolver. 40 damage per shot is nothing to scoff at. This thing fires fast too. It's a great tool for dealing with people outside your range, or pairing with Spy's ability to see enemy health. You could use it to finish off a low health target, or you could just go Gun Spy. A strategy works a lot better than you think it would. Sadly, the Revolver is one of those infamous cases of random bullet spread I've seen, so good luck hitting any shot other than your first one. Even with that, the Revolver has a great spot in Spy's arsenal, and is the best long range option you could have. Let's see how the side grades compare. Ambassador. I can barely hit headshots with Sniper. How do you think I feel about the Ambassador? L'Étranger. As previously stated, I love the damage potential of the Revolver, so I'm not the biggest fan of the L'Étranger. Sure, more cloak is useful, but as useful as having a solid primary weapon, if you ask me. I can completely understand why people use this, it's just not for me. Enforcer. I don't hate the Enforcer. It has some neat elements to its name. More damage out of disguises is pretty cool, and the ability to ignore resistances can also be kinda useful. But the downside is just too crippling to use over the stock Revolver. I know I'm going through these fast, but I really don't play Spy much, so I don't have much to say on them. Diamondback. If I feel particularly good at Spy one day, I'll pull out the Diamondback. Getting crits on every backstep is a big deal. If you backstep someone, there's a good chance someone will notice and try to kill you. Having a crit can stop them dead in their tracks if they do this, and if you do manage to get away, you can use it as a surprise attack if you're found out later. Good for an experienced Spy, and downsides aren't too crippling to make it unenjoyable for someone like me. Knife. The best stock melee and the best Spy melee, and the only one I feel I can use. You backstab people and one-hit them. It's just clean and simple. The knife has a slick design and is filled with customization options, and to support the fact that it's the best stock melee, it's the only one that can taunt kill. But just because it's Spy's main weapon doesn't mean I have anything to say on it though, so let's move on. Spicicle. The Spicicle is a weird side grade. It has an odd spot in Spy's arsenal, being an anti-Pyro knife of sorts. Fire resist can be pretty cool, but if there aren't any Pyros on the other team, you're basically just using a reskin. I don't play Spy enough to know if the ice statue thing is too important, so it just seems like a knife with weird things happening when ignited. I'll stick to stock. Your Eternal Reward. Oh boy, this thing. Your Eternal Reward makes you put in a lot of effort to get behind enemy lines, take away your whole cloak when you disguise. Once you get back there, you'll steal the looks of anyone you backstab. This is cool, but if you do it when anyone is looking in your general direction, you'll be caught, killed, and have to do it all again. So much work for a mediocre payoff. Big Gunner. A speed boost on kill is nice, letting you get out of tough spots more easily, but it's not worth being one-shot by a grenade for. That is all. Connivers can I? Alright, I have a bone pick with this stupid knife. Firstly, the stats are pretty good. Extremely high risk for an insanely high reward. Not for me, but very well balanced. However, my problem doesn't stem from the weapon itself. I play TF2 in casual, so I don't see this very much because, well, casual Spies aren't the best. But and I mean every time I do see this, it's always a strange one with some stupid name and somewhere from 3 to 5,000 kills. It happens every single time, it's so weird. I don't know why, they just never use a unique one. I guess it shows Spy mains at their best. Invis Watch. The best of the 3 watches. The Invis Watch lets you turn invisible and will eventually run out of cloak. Simple. It really makes Spy what he is, and it's hard to use any other watches when this one's just so good. Cloak and Dagger. My least favorite of the watches. The Cloak and Dagger encourages Spies to stay in one place for a long time by regaining cloak as they don't move. And to help this, if you think about moving with the Cloak and Dagger, whoops, there goes all your cloak. I don't like the playstyle this encourages, it's too dull. Dead Ringer. I have mixed feelings on the Dead Ringer. If you charge an enemy team, you can actually get behind their lines pretty well. It makes you a lot less sneaky, that can be pretty fun sometimes. Problem is, as soon as you decloak, the entire server knows where you are due to the deafening sound it makes. Again, not very sneaky, but I do often use the Dead Ringer, because being sneaky is already hard if you're using a large gun instead of a knife. Sapper. You destroy buildings with it. Nothing to say on the Sapper, but the next one. Red tape recorder, the final weapon. And I'm ending on the best note I can, a controversial one. I really like the red tape recorder. Any engineer who knows what he's doing can take down a sapper before it destroys a building. But the red tape can de-level a building faster than a sapper can destroy it. So there's a good chance he'll at least be able to level it down and waste the engine's time before he gets to it. That's what the sapper's all about, wasting time. This thing takes over 10 seconds to destroy a mini sentry, which is more than twice the normal sapper. The red tape shuts down battle NGs, and it really makes me wish there were more unique sappers. Whew, that was a lot of weapons. As you can tell, this video took a long time to make, and if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. It helps me know you like this type of content. And if you do like these types of videos, I had a lot of fun making this one, so tell me what other general thoughts you might want to see in the future, as I do plan to do more. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.